The break room fluorescents buzzed overhead when the door opened and Danger walked in wearing a $1,000 suit. Dr. Emma Morrison had survived a 36-hour shift, a marriage built on silence, and years of making herself small. But when Dante Caruso said her name like he owned it, like he knew things about her life that she didn't, something cracked open inside her chest. "Your husband is going to kill you," he said. No preamble, no softness, just 5 words that shattered everything. And somehow, impossibly, she believed him. If you're watching, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments. Let me see how far this story travels. The coffee had gone cold 2 hours ago. Emma stared at the styrofoam cup in her hand, brown liquid congealing against white foam, and tried to remember when she'd poured it. Somewhere between the cardiac arrest in room 304 and the kid with the compound fracture in the ER. Somewhere in the blur of the last 36 hours that had turned her brain into something thick and slow-moving, like her thoughts were wading through mud. She set the cup down on the break room table. Her hand shook, just a tremor, barely visible, but she saw it. The hospital break room existed in a perpetual state of exhausted beige, scuffed linoleum, flickering fluorescent lights that hummed like dying insects, a refrigerator that rattled every 7 minutes like clockwork. Emma had counted once during another endless shift because counting something gave her brain something to do besides collapse. The clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. Wednesday. Maybe. Time had stopped meaning much after the first 24 hours. She pulled her phone from her scrubs pocket and stared at the screen. No messages, no missed calls. Nothing from David, which wasn't surprising. Her husband had stopped checking in years ago, somewhere between their 3rd anniversary and the slow, quiet death of whatever they'd pretended to build together. She should go home. Her shift had technically ended an hour ago, but Reeves had called in sick and someone needed to cover, and Emma had learned a long time ago that saying no made her visible in ways she didn't want to be. Easier to just stay. Easier to be needed here than not needed anywhere else. The break room door opened. Emma didn't look up. Probably another resident looking for the good coffee pods that didn't exist, or a nurse grabbing a forgotten lunch from the fridge. The door closed again and she heard footsteps. Not the rubber-soled whisper of hospital shoes, but something harder, leather on linoleum. "Dr. Morrison." The voice made her spine straighten. Not a question, not a greeting, just her name, spoken like a fact. She looked up. The man standing in her break room didn't belong there. That was her first thought, sharp and immediate. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary, tailored so perfectly it looked like it had been built around him. Dark hair, silver at the temples, eyes that weren't quite black but close enough that the difference didn't matter. Maybe 45, maybe older. The kind of face that wore age like authority. And he was looking at her like he knew her. "I'm sorry," Emma said, automatically apologetic, automatically small. "This is a staff-only area?" "I know." He didn't move, didn't smile, just stood there 3 feet from her table, radiating the kind of calm that came from never being told no. "We need to talk." "I don't—" She stopped, started again. "Do I know you?" "No." He pulled out the chair across from her and sat down without asking. "But I know you. Emma Catherine Morrison, née Williams, born in Portland, Oregon. Graduated Johns Hopkins Medical School, top 15% of your class. Married David Morrison 4 years ago in a ceremony your mother planned because you were too busy with residency to care." The air went thin. Emma's hands flattened against the table. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone trying to keep you alive." He said it like he was commenting on the weather. Like those words were normal, reasonable things to say to a stranger in a hospital break room at midnight. "Your husband is going to kill you, Dr. Morrison. And if you don't listen to me very carefully, he's going to succeed." The fluorescent lights buzzed. The refrigerator rattled. Emma's brain tried to process the words and couldn't quite get there. "This is—" She pushed her chair back. "I'm calling security." "David Morrison." The man's voice didn't rise, but something in it stopped her cold. Investment analyst at Grayson & Webb, drives a leased BMW 5 Series, plays golf every Sunday at Oak Ridge. And for the last 18 months, he's been embezzling money from his firm and funneling it into offshore accounts. $7 million so far. Maybe 8. Emma's hand hovered over her phone. "That's not possible." It's not only possible, it's documented. He reached into his jacket, slowly, deliberately, like he knew sudden movements would spook her, and pulled out a slim folder, set it on the table between them. The life insurance policy he took out on you 6 months ago is for $2 million. You didn't sign anything, did you? I would have known. He forged your signature. Very good forgery, actually. I've seen worse from professionals. The man tapped the folder. Inside here is evidence that David has been planning your death for at least 4 months, probably longer, but that's how far back my team was able to trace definitively. The room tilted. Emma grabbed the edge of the table. Look at me. His voice cut through the static in her head. Look at me, Dr. Morrison. She did. Against every instinct telling her to run, to scream, to do anything but sit here listening to insanity, she looked at him. His eyes weren't cruel. That was what made it worse. They were flat, factual, completely devoid of the kind of manipulation she'd expect from someone saying these things. He looked at her the way she looked at patients, clinical assessment, no emotional cushioning. My name is Dante Caruso, he said. I run a private security firm that specializes in financial crimes and asset recovery. Your husband stole money from one of my clients. In the process of tracking him, we discovered his plans for you. And while I don't generally concern myself with domestic affairs, I draw the line at murder. This is insane. Emma's voice came out hoarse. You're insane. He's boring, he works late, he plays golf, he's having an affair with Rebecca Chen from his office. Dante Caruso opened the folder and slid out a photograph. They've been together for 14 months. The photo showed David, her David, with his receding hairline and his tendency to leave coffee cups everywhere, kissing a woman Emma had never seen before. Outside a restaurant Emma didn't recognize, looking at the woman the way he'd never looked at Emma, not even on their wedding day. There are more, Dante said quietly. Hotel receipts, text messages. But I thought that might be enough to establish credibility. Emma couldn't breathe right. The air kept stopping halfway to her lungs, like her body had forgotten the mechanics of respiration. The affair isn't what's going to kill you, Dante continued. Rebecca doesn't know about the embezzlement. She thinks David is preparing to leave you for her, which he is. But he needs the insurance payout first. $2 million is enough to cover what he's stolen, set himself up somewhere new, and keep Rebecca in the lifestyle she expects. Stop. Emma's hands were shaking again. Both of them now. Just stop talking. I need you to understand the timeline. Dante's voice stayed level, relentless. David has been laying groundwork for your death to look accidental. He's researched your work schedule, your driving routes, your medical history. 3 weeks ago, he purchased life insurance on you through a broker in Nevada. 2 weeks ago, he started asking your colleagues about your stress levels, your sleep patterns, establishing a narrative of exhaustion, of you being overworked. The 36-hour shifts, the extra coverage. The way David had started asking if she was okay, if maybe she should cut back if she was taking care of herself. Not concern. Set up. Last week, Dante said, he transferred title of your car into his name only. And yesterday he made an appointment with a mechanic who owes him money. A mechanic who, according to our surveillance, has connections to people who know how to make brake failures look like accidents. Emma's vision grayed at the edges. I can't do this. She stood up too fast. The chair scraped against linoleum. I can't. This isn't real. You're wrong. You have to be wrong. I wish I was. Dante stood too, slower, controlled. But I'm not. And you're going to go home tonight to a man who is actively planning to murder you. So I need you to make a choice right now, Dr. Morrison. You can walk away, pretend this conversation never happened, and hope I'm lying. Or you can look at the evidence I've spent 3 months compiling and accept that your husband sees you as a $2 million problem that needs solving. He wouldn't. Her voice cracked. We've been married 4 years. He's not violent. He's never even raised his voice? Raised a hand? Dante's expression didn't change. Men who kill their wives for money rarely do. They're patient, methodical. They don't kill in anger. They kill in calculation. And your husband, Dr. Morrison, is very, very calculating. Emma looked at the folder on the table, then at the photograph still lying there. David's face captured mid-kiss, mid-betrayal, mid-everything she'd built her life around. What do you want from me? She whispered. I want you to stay alive. Dante picked up the folder and held it out to her. Take this. Read it. All of it. and then decide if you want my help. She didn't take it, couldn't make her hands move. Why? The question came out broken. Why do you care? If you're just tracking stolen money, why do you care if I... Because I've seen this before. Something flickered across Dante's face, too fast to identify. And I'm tired of showing up too late. The refrigerator rattled. The lights hummed. Emma stood in her break room at midnight, staring at a stranger offering her a folder full of evidence that her entire life was a lie. She took it. The folder felt heavier than it should. Thick paper, photographs, documents that looked official and terrifying and real. My number's inside, Dante said. When you're ready to talk, call me. Don't use your regular phone. There's a burner in the folder too. Don't go home tonight if you can avoid it. Stay with a friend. Tell them you're too tired to drive, and whatever you do, don't confront David. Not yet. I don't understand any of this. Emma clutched the folder against her chest. I don't understand how this is my life. You will. Dante moved toward the door, then stopped, looked back at her. For what it's worth, Dr. Morrison, I'm sorry. You deserve better than this. Better than him. He left. Emma stood alone in the beige break room, holding evidence of her husband's betrayal and murder plot, and felt something inside her chest crack open, not breaking, but fracturing, like ice under pressure. Everything she'd built, everything she'd chosen, the quiet life, the safe life, the invisible life where she worked herself to exhaustion and came home to a man who didn't love her, but at least didn't hurt her. Except he did hurt her. He was going to kill her. She sank back into the chair and opened the folder with shaking hands. The documents were meticulous, bank statements showing transfers David had no business making, emails between him and Rebecca, casual and intimate and completely devastating, surveillance photos of them together, restaurants, hotels, her apartment, a copy of the life insurance policy, Emma's signature forged so perfectly she almost believed she'd signed it herself. And then the darker stuff. Search history from David's laptop, how to cause brake failure, undetectable poisons, life insurance investigation process. How long before death is ruled accidental? Notes in David's handwriting outlining her schedule, the route she drove, the times she was most exhausted, most vulnerable, a receipt for a dinner with the mechanic, cash payment, no paper trail except the one Dante's people had found. Emma read it all, every page, every word, and with each piece of evidence, the life she thought she knew disintegrated a little more. She'd met David at a hospital fundraiser. He'd been charming, attentive in a quiet way, not overwhelming, not pushy, just there, present, interested in her work, impressed by her dedication. He'd made her feel seen without making her feel pressured. They'd dated for 8 months before he proposed. Nothing dramatic, just a nice dinner and a reasonable ring, and a question that felt more logical than romantic. They worked well together, their schedules aligned. They wanted similar things, stability, eventually kids, a house in the suburbs with good schools, except they never talked about kids anymore. They barely talked about anything. When had that happened? When had they stopped being two people building something and become two people just existing in the same space? Emma thought about their last conversation, 3 days ago. David asking if she was okay, telling her she looked tired, suggesting she take a few days off. You're working too hard, Em. You need to take care of yourself. Setting the narrative. Establishing that she was exhausted, overwhelmed, likely to make a mistake. Her phone buzzed. Text from David. You working late again? She stared at it. 3 words, 3 completely normal words that now felt like a threat. Her fingers moved before her brain caught up, covering for Reeves. Might crash in the on-call room. Don't wait up. The response came fast. Okay. Love you. She almost laughed. Almost. But the sound stuck in her throat and came out more like a sob. Emma pressed her palms against her eyes. She'd cried maybe 5 times in the last 4 years. Once at her grandmother's funeral. Once during a particularly brutal shift in the ER. Once after a patient she'd fought for died anyway. Twice for reasons she couldn't even remember now. She wasn't crying now either. The tears wouldn't come. Just this hollow, shocked numbness that felt like drowning in dry air. The burner phone Dante had left was a cheap flip phone, the kind you bought at gas stations. She turned it over in her hands, then found the piece of paper with his number. She didn't call. Not yet. Instead, she kept reading. Financial documents showing exactly how David had been stealing, Small transfers at first, amounts that wouldn't trigger immediate flags. Then larger ones as he got confident, building up accounts in the Caymans, in Luxembourg, in places Emma had never heard of. $7 million. $7 million that he'd stolen, that would get him arrested, that would destroy everything he'd built. Unless he had $2 million from her life insurance to cover his tracks. Unless she was dead, and he was a grieving widower, and no one looked too closely at the money. The photo of him and Rebecca mocked her from the table. They looked happy. Actually happy. David was smiling in a way Emma hadn't seen in years. She'd made him miserable. She must have. Why else would he want her dead? No. Emma stopped that thought before it could take root. She'd spent years making herself smaller, quieter, less demanding. She'd worked brutal hours so David could focus on his career. She'd skipped events, missed dinners, rearranged her life around his convenience. She'd done everything right by the rules she thought they were playing by. And he was going to kill her for it. The break room door opened. Emma's heart stopped. Doctor. Reeves walked in looking pale and miserable. Hey, thanks for covering. I owe you. It's fine. Emma's voice came out almost normal. Feel better? Stomach bug. Worst timing. Reeves grabbed a ginger ale from the fridge. You going home soon? You look like death. The irony wasn't lost on Emma. Soon, just need to finish some charts. Don't stay too late. The overnight attending can handle it. Reeves headed for the door, then paused. Hey, you okay? You seem off. Just tired. Emma managed something resembling a smile. 36 hours will do that. Tell David to give you a real vacation. You need it. Emma nodded. Reeves left. The door swung shut. Tell David. Right. The man planning her murder. That David. She looked at the burner phone again, then at the folder, then at the clock. 12:43 a.m. Thursday morning. Her life had imploded exactly 56 minutes ago. She picked up the burner phone and dialed. Dante Caruso answered on the second ring. Dr. Morrison. I read it. Emma's voice sounded strange to her own ears. Flat. Empty. All of it. And I don't know what to do. She laughed, sharp and bitter. I save lives for a living. I make split-second decisions about who lives and dies, but I don't know what to do about my own husband trying to kill me. That's why I'm here. Dante's voice was steady, calm. I have a plan, but I need your cooperation. What kind of plan? The kind that keeps you alive and puts David in prison where he belongs. A pause. Are you somewhere safe right now? I'm at the hospital. I told him I'm staying in the on-call room. Good. Stay there. Don't go home tonight. Tomorrow, I need you to act completely normal. Go to work, come home, pretend nothing has changed. Can you do that? Emma thought about seeing David across the breakfast table, looking at his face, knowing what she knew, pretending everything was fine while he planned her death. I don't know. You can. Dante's voice held absolute certainty. You're a doctor. You've spent years maintaining composure in crisis situations. This is just another crisis. Different variables, same skill set. He's my husband. He's a man who forged your signature and researched how to kill you. Whatever he was to you before, that's what he is now. The words landed like a physical blow, but they were true. Emma felt them settle into her bones, cold and final. What do I have to do? First, you survive tonight. Get some sleep if you can. Tomorrow, we start building our case. I need you to document everything. Every conversation with David, every interaction, every moment that feels off. I need you to be my eyes inside that house. For how long? As long as it takes. David's planning something soon. The mechanic appointment suggests he's moving into the execution phase. We need to catch him in the act, or at least collect enough evidence that there's no question of his intent. Emma closed her eyes. And if something goes wrong, if he tries something before we're ready, then you call me immediately, and I extract you. I have people watching your house. If David makes a move, we'll know. You have people watching my house? Emma's eyes snapped open. How long have you been watching me? 3 weeks, since we confirmed the insurance policy and the mechanic connection. Dante didn't sound apologetic. I needed to establish patterns, understand David's movements, figure out his timeline. You've been following me for 3 weeks, and this is the first time you said anything? I needed to be sure. If I'd approached you without solid evidence, you would have dismissed me as crazy. Possibly told David about the encounter, and then I'd have lost the ability to protect you. His voice sharpened. I know it feels invasive, but it's why you're still alive. Emma wanted to be angry, should be angry, but the exhaustion was too heavy, and anger took energy she didn't have. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll do it. I'll act normal. I'll document everything. Just tell me this works. Tell me I'm not about to walk back into my own murder. It works. Dante's certainty was absolute. I've done this 17 times, Dr. Morrison. 17 cases of planned spousal murder. I've stopped all of them. You'll be 18. Reassuring. It's meant to be. A pause. Get some rest. I'll contact you tomorrow with next steps. And Dr. Morrison, you're stronger than you think you are. You're going to survive this. The line went dead. Emma sat in the break room holding a burner phone and a folder full of evidence that her husband wanted her dead, and tried to feel strong. She didn't. She felt terrified, hollowed out, like everything she'd built her identity around had been revealed as set dressing, pretty lies she'd told herself to make an empty marriage feel like something worth staying in. David didn't love her. Maybe he never had. Maybe she'd been convenient, uncomplicated, too busy to ask hard questions or demand real intimacy. The perfect wife for a man planning embezzlement and murder. Emma stood up. Her legs shook, but they held. The on-call room was empty. She locked the door, set an alarm for 6 a.m., and lay down on the narrow bed, still wearing her scrubs. Sleep seemed impossible, but exhaustion was a physical force, and her body had been running on empty for hours. She closed her eyes and dreamed of brake failures and forged signatures and a man in a charcoal suit who said she deserved better. But the alarm jolted her awake at 6. Emma stared at the ceiling, disoriented, trying to remember where she was. Hospital, on-call room, right. Then the rest of it came flooding back. She checked the burner phone. No messages. Her regular phone had 3 texts from David. Sleep okay? I'll make breakfast. See you tonight. Normal texts. Husband texts. Texts from a man who'd researched undetectable poisons. Emma forced herself to respond. Heading home to shower and change. See you tonight. She showered in the hospital locker room, changed into the spare clothes she kept in her locker, jeans and a sweater, nothing special. Looked at herself in the mirror. Same face. Same tired eyes, same brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She didn't look like a woman whose husband wanted her dead. She didn't know what that was supposed to look like. The drive home took 20 minutes. Emma gripped the steering wheel and thought about brake failures. About mechanics who knew how to make accidents look real. About David standing over her hospital bed, playing the devastated husband while she died from injuries he'd caused. Her house looked exactly the same. Craftsman style, blue with white trim. A small front yard that David paid someone to maintain because neither of them had time for gardening. They'd bought it 3 years ago, stretched their budget to afford the neighborhood because David said it was an investment. An investment, like everything else in their marriage. Emma parked in the driveway, sat in the car for a long moment, trying to make herself move. The front door opened. David stepped out, coffee mug in hand, smiling. Hey, he walked toward the car. Rough shift? Emma made herself smile back, made herself get out of the car, made herself walk toward the man who wanted her dead. Brutal, she said. Reeves better actually be sick. I'm sure he is. You look exhausted. David kissed her forehead. Casual, familiar, the kind of gesture they'd performed 1,000 times. I made eggs. Come eat. She followed him inside. The kitchen smelled like coffee and toast. Normal morning smells. David had set out plates, poured orange juice, playing the attentive husband, establishing the narrative. Emma sat down and tried to eat. The eggs tasted like ash. I was thinking, David said, leaning against the counter, maybe you should take a few days off. You've been running yourself into the ground. I'm fine. Em, you worked 36 hours straight. That's not fine. That's dangerous. He sipped his coffee. What if you'd made a mistake? What if you'd been too tired and hurt someone? There it was, the setup, planting the idea that she was impaired, dangerous, a liability. I didn't make any mistakes, Emma said quietly. This time. But you're not superhuman. Everyone has limits. David sat down across from her. I worry about you. She looked at him. Really looked. Same face she'd seen across breakfast tables for 4 years. Receding hairline, glasses, slightly crooked nose from a childhood baseball injury. He looked concerned, genuinely concerned. He was a good liar. I'll think about it, Emma said. Good. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I just want you safe. She wanted to scream, wanted to throw the evidence folder in his face and watch him try to explain away his own handwriting, his own search history, his own goddamn affair. Instead, she squeezed back. I know. David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stood. Work. I have to take this. He left the kitchen. Emma heard his voice in the other room, professional and smooth, talking about quarterly reports and client meetings. She pulled out the burner phone and texted Dante. I'm home, acting normal. This is horrible. The response came immediately. You're doing fine. Remember, document everything. I need you to be my witness. Emma deleted the text thread and hid the phone in her purse. David came back. Sorry, client emergency. He grabbed his suit jacket from the back of the chair. I have to go in early. You going to be okay? I'm off today. Might actually sleep. Good. You need it. He kissed her cheek. Love you. See you tonight. Love you too, Emma heard herself say. The words felt like stones in her mouth. David left. Emma listened to his car pull out of the driveway, then sat alone in her kitchen and stared at the eggs she couldn't eat. Her phone rang. Regular phone this time. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? Dr. Morrison, this is Detective Sarah Chen with the Financial Crimes Unit. Emma's heart stopped. I'm sorry, what? I'm calling about your husband, David Morrison. We'd like to ask you some questions about his financial activities. Would you be available to come down to the station this afternoon? Everything was moving too fast. I don't understand. What kind of questions? I'd rather discuss this in person. Are you available around 2 p.m.? Emma looked at the kitchen, at the life she'd built, at the evidence that it was all lies. Yes, I'll be there. She hung up and immediately called Dante. The police just called, she said when he answered. Financial Crimes Unit. They want to talk to me about David. Shit. Dante sounded actually worried for the first time. What did you tell them? That I'd come in. Was I not supposed to? No, you did the right thing, but this complicates things. If the police are already investigating David's embezzlement, our timeline just compressed. He's going to panic when he finds out. What does that mean? It means whatever he was planning, he's going to move it up. We need to be ready. Dante's voice sharpened. Do you trust me, Dr. Morrison? Emma thought about it. Really thought. This man had invaded her privacy, followed her for weeks, dropped a bomb into her life at midnight in a hospital break room. But he'd also given her the truth. Painful, devastating, life-shattering truth. Yes, she said. I trust you. Good. Because tonight, we're going to end this. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. Emma sat in a gray interview room with gray walls and gray furniture, waiting for Detective Chen to return with whatever questions were about to blow her life apart even further. Dante had told her to tell the truth. Most of it, anyway. Answer their questions about David's finances honestly. She didn't know anything, which was the truth. Don't mention the insurance policy. Don't mention the affair. Don't mention that her husband was planning to kill her. That's privileged information in an ongoing private investigation, Dante had said. The moment you tell the police, they'll bring David in for questioning. He'll know something's wrong, and a cornered man is a dangerous man. So Emma sat in the gray room and tried to figure out which truths to tell and which to keep hidden, and wondered when her life had become something that required strategic lying to law enforcement. The door opened. Detective Chen walked in. Late 30s, sharp suit, eyes that had seen too much to be impressed by much anymore. She sat down across from Emma and opened a folder that looked disturbingly similar to the one Dante had given her. Thank you for coming in, Dr. Morrison. You said it was about my husband's finances. Emma kept her voice steady, professional, the same tone she used when delivering bad news to families. I don't understand what that has to do with me. Oh, probably nothing, but we need to establish some facts. Detective Chen pulled out a document. Are you aware that your husband has access to approximately $7 million in offshore accounts? Emma let herself look shocked. It wasn't hard. That's not possible. David makes good money, but not that kind of money. No, he doesn't. Chen slid another document across the table. He's been embezzling from Grayson and Webb for the last 18 months. We've been building a case for 3 weeks. His employers are cooperating fully. I had no idea. Also true. Until 24 hours ago, she'd had no idea about any of this. Does your husband discuss his work with you? Sometimes. Surface level stuff, I work long hours. I'm a physician. We don't spend a lot of time talking about quarterly reports. Chen studied her. When was the last time you and your husband took a vacation together? The question felt like a trap. Emma thought back. 2 years ago, long weekend in Napa. Have you noticed any changes in his behavior recently? Unexplained absences, unusual spending, mood changes? He works late sometimes, but he always has. Emma folded her hands on the table to stop them shaking. Detective, I still don't understand what this has to do with me. If David stole money from his company, that's between him and them. I didn't know anything about it. I believe you. Chen leaned back in her chair. But I need to ask, are you aware of any life insurance policies your husband might have taken out recently? Emma's blood went cold. No. You're sure? I would remember signing something like that. Chen pulled out another document. Emma recognized it immediately, the forged signature, the $2 million policy, the proof that David had been setting up her murder. This was filed 6 months ago with your signature. You're listed as the insured party, David Morrison as the beneficiary. Emma stared at the paper, made herself look confused instead of terrified. I never signed that. You're certain? Detective Chen, I work 80-hour weeks. I barely have time to sleep, let alone sign life insurance paperwork. Emma met her eyes. That's not my signature. Something shifted in Chen's expression. We had a handwriting analyst look at it. They flagged it as potentially forged, but we needed to confirm with you directly. It's not mine. Emma's voice hardened. Someone forged my signature on a $2 million life insurance policy without my knowledge or consent. Can you think of any reason your husband would do that? Emma could think of several reasons. All of them involved her death and David's financial survival. But Dante had been clear, don't give them the whole picture. Not yet. No, she said. I can't. Chen closed the folder. Dr. Morrison, I'm going to be direct with you. Your husband is going to be arrested for embezzlement within the next 48 hours. We have enough evidence to charge him. What we're trying to determine now is if there are any additional crimes we need to be aware of. Like what? Like insurance fraud. Like conspiracy to commit fraud. Like, Chen paused. Like anything that might put you in danger. Emma wanted to scream that yes, she was in danger, that her husband had researched brake failures and undetectable poisons, that he was planning to kill her and make it look like an accident so he could cash in the policy and cover his embezzlement. But Dante's voice echoed in her head. The moment you tell the police, he'll know something's wrong. I don't think I'm in danger, Emma heard herself say. David isn't violent. Violent and dangerous aren't always the same thing. Chen stood up. If you think of anything else, anything at all that seems unusual or concerning, please call me immediately. She handed Emma a business card. Emma took it with numb fingers. One more thing, Chen said at the door. Don't tell your husband about this conversation, not yet. If he knows we're investigating him, it could compromise our case. I understand. Emma left the police station feeling like she was walking through water. Everything moved too slow and too fast at the same time. The sky was too bright. The parking lot was too big. Her car felt foreign and wrong. She sat behind the wheel and called Dante. They know about the insurance policy, she said when he answered. They know it's forged. What did you tell them? That I never signed it, that I didn't know about it, nothing about the rest. Good. Dante sounded relieved. They're moving faster than I expected. David's going to be arrested soon. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Which means we need to move now. Move how? I need you to come to my office. There's something you need to see. Emma checked the time. Almost 4 p.m. David wouldn't be home until 7 at the earliest. Where? Dante gave her an address downtown. 20th floor of a building Emma had driven past 100 times without noticing. The office was nothing like she'd expected. Clean lines, glass walls, expensive furniture that somehow didn't look pretentious. A receptionist who smiled and said Dr. Morrison was expected. Please go right back. Dante's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He stood at one of them, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He saw Emma and held up one finger. Give me a minute. She waited, looked at the view. tried not to think about how her life had become something that required private security firms and forged insurance policies and police investigations. Dante ended the call. "Thank you for coming. You said there was something I needed to see." "There is." He walked to his desk and pulled up something on his computer. "Surveillance from this morning, after you left for the police station." The video showed her house, her driveway, and David's car pulling in 2 hours after he'd supposedly gone to work. Emma watched her husband get out of his car, look around to make sure no one was watching, and walk toward the garage. "Keep watching," Dante said quietly. David came back out 20 minutes later carrying something small. He put it in his trunk, looked around again, and drove away. "What was that?" Emma's voice barely worked. "We don't know yet. My team is trying to get a better angle from the neighbor's security camera." Dante paused the video on David's face. "But given the timeline and the location, I have a theory." "Tell me." "He went into the garage where you park your car. He was in there for 20 minutes. He came out carrying something he didn't want anyone to see." Dante turned to look at her. "I think he tampered with your car." The room tilted. Emma grabbed the edge of the desk. "We can't confirm it without physically inspecting the vehicle, which we can't do without tipping him off. But the mechanic appointment is tomorrow. My theory is that David was either installing something that will fail catastrophically when you drive, or he was checking work the mechanic already did." "I drove that car here." Emma's voice came out strangled. "I drove it to the police station and back. If he did something to it, you're fine. Whatever he did, it's not designed to fail immediately. Too suspicious. He needs it to look random, accidental. Probably set to fail after a certain number of miles or when you hit a certain speed." Dante's expression was grim. "Which is why you're not driving that car again." "How am I supposed to explain that to David?" "You're not. Here's what's going to happen." Dante pulled up another file on his computer. "Tonight, you're going to go home and act normal. You're going to have dinner with your husband. You're going to pretend everything is fine. And then, around 9 p.m., you're going to get a call from the hospital. Emergency. They need you to come in immediately. David will want to know why. Tell him there was a multi-vehicle accident on the highway, mass casualties, all hands on deck. It happens. He'll believe it." Emma's brain was trying to keep up and failing. "And then what?" "And then you leave. You drive your car to the hospital, carefully, not exceeding 45 miles per hour. My people will be following you the entire way. You park in the hospital garage, walk into the ER, and disappear. We'll have someone waiting to take you somewhere safe." "For how long?" 48 hours, maybe less. Long enough for the police to arrest David, for us to collect final evidence, and for you to never have to see him again unless it's in a courtroom." Emma sank into the chair across from Dante's desk. "This is really happening. My husband really tried to kill me." "Yes." No softness in Dante's voice, no comfort, just fact. "What if something goes wrong? What if he realizes I know? What if he doesn't wait for the car to fail?" "Then you call me immediately, and I extract you within minutes. I have people positioned around your house. I have people ready to intervene if David makes any move that suggests you're in immediate danger." Dante leaned against his desk. "Dr. Morrison, I understand this is terrifying, but I need you to trust that I've done this before. I know how these men think. I know how they move, and I will not let him hurt you." "You can't promise that." "You're right, I can't." He met her eyes. "But I can promise that I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe, and my power is considerable." Emma almost laughed. Almost. "Modest, aren't you?" "Modesty doesn't save lives. Competence does." Dante handed her a piece of paper with an address. "This is where you'll go after you leave the hospital. It's a safe house. Secure, private, fully stocked. You'll stay there until this is over." "Alone?" "My associate Maria will be with you, former FBI, trained in protective services. You'll be safe." Emma folded the paper and put it in her purse next to the burner phone that was becoming the only lifeline she trusted. "What about my job? My patients? I can't just disappear for 2 days without explanation." "Call your supervisor. Tell them you have a family emergency. Your husband's been in an accident. You need a few days. They'll understand." "You want me to lie to everyone?" "I want you to survive." Dante's voice was steel. "Everything else is secondary." Emma stood up, walked to the window, looked down at the city 20 floors below. All those people living normal lives, going to normal jobs, coming home to spouses who weren't plotting their deaths. I keep thinking I should have known, she said quietly. 4 years of marriage. How did I not see it? Because he didn't want you to. Dante came to stand beside her. Men like David are experts at compartmentalization. They maintain perfect facades while planning terrible things. It's not a failure on your part. It's a skill on his. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you stop blaming yourself for not being psychic. Emma looked at him. Really looked. Dante Caruso stood there in his expensive suit with his expensive view, and she realized she didn't know anything about him except that he'd inserted himself into her life and taken over with the kind of authority she usually resented. Except she didn't resent it. She was grateful for it. Grateful. Someone else was willing to make the hard calls while her brain tried to process that her husband was a thief and a liar and a would-be murderer. Why do you do this? She asked. You said you've done it 17 times. Stopped 17 planned murders. Why? Something crossed Dante's face. Something old and painful. Because someone should have stopped the 18th. He didn't elaborate. Emma didn't push. I should go, she said instead. David will be home soon. Remember, act normal. Dinner, conversation, routine. Don't do anything that would make him suspicious. And if I can't do it, if I look at him and can't pretend, then you're a better actress than you think you are, because you've been pretending for 4 years that you're happy in a marriage that makes you invisible. Dante's voice was gentle but ruthless. This is just one more performance, except this time it saves your life. Emma left the office feeling hollowed out and strangely focused. Dante was right. She'd been performing for years, playing the understanding wife, the low-maintenance partner, the woman who didn't need much because asking for more felt like an imposition. One more night of performance, then freedom. She stopped at the grocery store on the way home, picked up ingredients for David's favorite meal, pasta carbonara, garlic bread, salad. If she was going to act normal, she might as well commit to the role. David's car was already in the driveway when she pulled up. Emma grabbed the groceries and went inside. He was in the living room, tie loosened, watching the news. He looked up when she walked in and smiled. Hey, I thought you were sleeping all day. Couldn't sleep, went shopping instead. Emma held up the bags. Thought I'd make dinner. You don't have to do that, you're exhausted. I want to. She forced herself to smile back. When's the last time we had a real dinner together? David stood up and followed her into the kitchen. I can't remember. You're always working. The implied criticism stung. Then Emma remembered that this man had forged her signature and researched undetectable poisons, and the sting turned into something colder. Well, I'm here now, she said lightly. She started cooking. David opened a bottle of wine. They moved around each other in the kitchen the way they had 1,000 times before. Familiar choreography, well-rehearsed steps. How was your day? Emma asked, chopping garlic. Long. Client meeting ran late. Bunch of bureaucratic nonsense. David poured 2 glasses of wine. How about you? Actually get some rest. Some. Emma took the wine glass he offered. Mostly just caught up on things around the house. They were both lying. Emma knew she was lying. David probably knew too. But they performed the scene anyway, 2 actors playing marriage while plotting their separate escapes. Dinner was ready by 7. They sat across from each other at the dining room table, and Emma tried to remember the last time they'd done this. Months at least, maybe longer. This is really good, David said around a mouthful of pasta. Thanks. I've missed this. Us. Actual time together. He reached across the table and took her hand. I know I've been distant lately, work stuff, but I want to do better. Emma looked at their joined hands, his fingers warm and familiar against hers. The same hand that had typed search queries about brake failures. The same hand that had held Rebecca Chen. Me too, she said. They ate in silence for a while. Then David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, and set it face down on the table. Everything okay? Emma asked. Fine, just work. Another lie. Emma wondered if it was Rebecca, if the other woman knew what David was planning, if she was in on it or just another person he was using. I was thinking, David said, setting down his fork. Maybe we should take that vacation we keep talking about. Get away for a week, somewhere tropical, just us. That sounds nice. Emma's stomach turned. Was he planning to kill her on vacation? Make it look like a drowning, a fall from a hotel balcony? I'll look into flights, maybe next month? David smiled. You deserve a break, Em. You work so hard. The concern in his voice sounded so genuine. Emma wondered if he actually believed it. If he'd convinced himself that killing her was some kind of mercy, saving her from a life of exhaustion and loneliness. Or maybe he just didn't think about her at all, except as a problem that needed solving. Her phone rang at exactly 9 p.m. Emma had been waiting for it, watching the clock, but she still jumped when it buzzed on the table between them. Unknown number. Dante's people, right on schedule. Dr. Morrison? An unfamiliar woman's voice. This is Nurse Patterson from the ER. We have a mass casualty situation, highway pileup, multiple critical patients. Dr. Chen is requesting all available physicians report immediately. I understand. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Emma ended the call and looked at David. I have to go. Multi-vehicle accident. David's face fell. Tonight? You just worked 36 hours. They wouldn't call if it wasn't serious. Emma stood up, already moving toward the bedroom to change into scrubs. I'm sorry. Dinner was nice. How long will you be? I don't know. Could be all night. She changed quickly. David watched from the doorway, and Emma felt his eyes on her like a weight. Be careful, he said. Always am. She grabbed her purse with the burner phone hidden inside. Kissed David's cheek because that's what she would normally do. Felt his hand on her arm, holding her there for just a second longer than necessary. I love you, he said. Emma looked at him, at the face she'd woken up next to for 4 years, at the man who'd promised to love and cherish her while planning her murder. I love you too, she said. The last lie, the final performance. She walked out to her car, got in, started the engine, and drove carefully, precisely, never exceeding 45 miles per hour, to the hospital where Dante's people were waiting to make her disappear. The city lights blurred past. Emma gripped the steering wheel and waited for something to fail, for the brakes to give out, or the steering to lock up, or whatever David had done to turn her car into a death trap. Nothing happened. She made it to the hospital, parked in the garage, walked into the ER entrance. A woman in a dark suit stepped forward. Dr. Morrison? Emma nodded. This way. She followed the woman through a side door, down a service corridor, out to a loading dock where an unmarked sedan waited. The woman opened the back door. Maria Santos, I'll be your protection detail for the next 2 days. We need to move quickly. Emma got in. The car pulled away from the hospital, and she watched the building disappear in the side mirror. Somewhere back at her house, David was probably cleaning up dinner. Maybe calling Rebecca to say the plan was in motion. Maybe checking his watch and calculating how long before Emma would drive home on whatever sabotaged vehicle component he'd installed that morning. Except she wasn't going home. She was never going home again. The safe house was in a neighborhood Emma didn't recognize. Maria parked in an underground garage and led her up to a third-floor apartment that looked more like a hotel suite than someone's home. Kitchen's fully stocked, Maria said, locking the door behind them. Bathroom's through there. Bedroom's got clean clothes in your size. Everything you need for the next 48 hours. What happens in 48 hours? Dante's team finishes building the case. The police arrest your husband. You give a statement. And then you get to start figuring out what your life looks like without him in it. Maria's expression softened slightly. I know this is scary, but you're safe here, I promise. Emma sank onto the couch. Safe. The word felt foreign. Can I ask you something? She said. Shoot. Dante said you're former FBI. Why'd you leave to do this? Maria leaned against the kitchen counter. Same reason Dante does what he does. Because the system isn't fast enough. By the time law enforcement builds a case, collects evidence, gets warrants, people die. This way we move faster, save more lives. How many? Personally, 12. This'll be 13, Maria smiled. Not as many as Dante, but I'm working on it. Emma's phone, her regular phone, buzzed in her purse. Text from David. Hope it's not too bad. Let me know when you're coming home. Her fingers moved automatically. Bad. Gonna be a long night. Don't wait up. Be safe. Emma set the phone down and felt something crack inside her chest. Not breaking, just shifting, making room for anger she'd been too shocked to feel until now. How dare he? How dare David send concerned texts and make dinner plans and pretend to love her while actively plotting her death? How dare he make her feel guilty for working long hours when those long hours were probably the only reason she was still alive, too busy to notice the trap closing around her. You okay? Maria asked. No. Emma's voice was flat. But I will be. Maria nodded. Good. Anger's useful. Keeps you sharp. The burner phone rang. Emma answered. Dante? You made it safely. Good. He sounded relieved. How are you holding up? I'm furious. Even better. Stay that way. I need you focused for what comes next. Which is? Tomorrow, David's going to realize you didn't come home. He's going to start calling, texting, trying to find you. Don't answer. Let him panic. The more unstable he gets, the more mistakes he'll make. What if he goes to the hospital looking for me? My people are already there with a story. You came in, worked for 6 hours, told everyone you were crashing in the on-call room. By the time David thinks to check, you'll be already asleep and they won't disturb you. Emma closed her eyes. You really have thought of everything. That's my job. A pause. Get some rest, Dr. Morrison. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. But after tomorrow, you're free. Free. Another word that felt impossible. Emma ended the call and sat in the unfamiliar apartment with unfamiliar furniture and a bodyguard in the kitchen making coffee. Like this was normal. None of this was normal. But it was her life now. She thought about David coming home to an empty house, waiting for her. Maybe starting to worry when she didn't answer his texts. Maybe calling the hospital and being told she was sleeping. Would he believe it, or would some instinct tell him something was wrong? Emma hoped he was scared, hoped he felt even a fraction of the fear he'd put her through, hoped he was lying awake wondering if his plan had failed and what that meant for him. You should eat something, Maria said, appearing with a plate of food Emma didn't remember asking for. Stress depletes you faster than you think. Emma took the plate mechanically. Food she didn't taste, water she didn't feel going down. Somewhere across the city, her husband was a free man. For now. Tomorrow the police would arrest him. Tomorrow, everything would come crashing down. Tonight, Emma sat in a safe house and tried to figure out who she was without the marriage that had defined her for 4 years. She had no idea, but she was alive to find out. Emma didn't sleep. She lay in the unfamiliar bedroom, staring at the ceiling and listening to the unfamiliar sounds of a city she thought she knew but had never seen from this angle. Maria had taken the couch, insisting that Emma needed the bed, and now Emma could hear her moving around in the other room, probably checking security feeds or whatever bodyguards did at 3 in the morning. Her phone, the regular one, had been buzzing for hours. Texts from David, each one more concerned than the last. You okay? Em, you haven't answered in a while. Getting worried. Please just let me know you're safe. It's almost 2 a.m. Are you still at the hospital? Emma stared at the messages and felt nothing. The man who'd written them was a stranger wearing her husband's face. She didn't know him, wasn't sure she ever had. At 4 a.m., her phone rang. David calling. Emma let it go to voicemail. He left a message. She listened to it once, then deleted it. His voice sounded strained, almost panicked. Good. Let him panic. Let him feel what she'd felt reading through that folder, seeing the evidence of his betrayal laid out in photographs and bank statements and search histories. The burner phone buzzed at 5:30. Text from Dante. Police are moving at 9 a.m. David will be arrested at his office. I need you to watch the surveillance feed with me. Can you handle that? Emma typed back, yes, good. I'll pick you up at 8. Maria made coffee when Emma emerged from the bedroom. Strong, black, the kind that tasted like it could wake the dead. Emma drank it standing at the kitchen counter and tried to remember the last time someone had made her coffee. She couldn't. You didn't sleep, Maria said. Not a question. No. That's normal. First night's always the worst. Maria poured her own cup. You keep thinking about what you could have done differently, what signs you missed. It's useless, but your brain does it anyway. Does it get easier? Eventually, once you realize that none of it was your fault. Maria leaned against the counter. Men like your husband are predators. They're good at what they do because they've practiced. You're not weak for falling for it. You're human. Emma wanted to believe that. Couldn't quite get there yet. Dante arrived at exactly 8 a.m. He looked like he hadn't slept either, slight shadows under his eyes, jaw tight with tension. But his suit was perfect, and his expression was controlled, and Emma found that strangely reassuring. Ready? He asked. I don't know. Honest answer. I'll take it. He nodded to Maria. Stay on standby. If anything goes wrong, I want you mobile. They drove downtown in silence. Dante's office looked different in morning light. Less intimidating, more utilitarian. Just a place where people worked, solved problems, saved lives. He led Emma to a conference room where multiple monitors showed different camera angles. One of them displayed the exterior of Grayson and Webb's office building. Another showed the parking garage. A third showed what looked like David's office. Empty chair, organized desk, everything normal except for the two plainclothes officers standing just outside the frame. How did you get access to their security system? Emma asked. I didn't. That's Detective Chen's feed. She's sharing it with me because we work together on the evidence collection. Dante pulled out a chair for Emma. You don't have to watch this. I can tell you what happens later. I want to watch. She needed to see it, needed to watch David's carefully constructed life fall apart the way hers had. They waited. The clock on the wall ticked toward 9. Emma's hands were shaking again, so she pressed them flat against the conference table and tried to breathe normally. At 8:57, David's car pulled into the parking garage. Emma watched him get out, check his phone, straighten his tie. He looked tired, worried, like a man whose wife hadn't come home and wasn't answering his calls. He took the elevator up, walked through the office. People greeted him. He smiled back, professional and polite, the same way he'd smiled at Emma over dinner while planning her death. David reached his office, sat down at his desk, opened his computer. Detective Chen walked in. Another detective Emma didn't recognize followed. The sound was off, but Emma could read the moment David realized what was happening. His face went blank, then pale, then something that looked like panic trying hard to be confusion. Chen showed him something, a warrant, probably. David stood up, his mouth moved, arguing, explaining, performing innocence. It didn't matter. The other detective moved behind him. Emma saw handcuffs, saw David's hands pulled behind his back, saw his face crumble into something desperate and ugly. They're reading him his rights now, Dante said quietly. Charges are embezzlement, wire fraud, insurance fraud, and forgery. They're not mentioning the attempted murder yet. That comes later. Emma watched her husband being led out of his office in handcuffs, watched his coworkers stare, watched him try to maintain some dignity and fail completely. She felt nothing, or maybe she felt too much and her brain had shut down to protect itself. What happens now? Her voice sounded mechanical. Now they process him, book him. He'll make bail. The charges aren't violent felonies yet, and he has money. But the attempted murder evidence will come out during the bail hearing this afternoon. Once the judge sees the forged insurance policy and the surveillance of him tampering with your car, bail gets revoked. So he'll be in jail. By tonight, yes. Dante turned away from the monitors. But first, we need to deal with the car. They drove to Emma's house. Correction, David's house now. She'd never been on the mortgage. Another thing she'd accepted without question, because David handled the finances and she was too busy to care. The driveway looked the same. The house looked the same. Nothing had changed except everything. A tow truck was already there. So was a man in coveralls who Dante introduced as Marcus, a forensic mechanic. Let's see what we're dealing with, Marcus said, pulling on gloves. Emma watched him jack up her car, watched him slide underneath with a flashlight and a camera, watched him take photographs of things she couldn't see from where she stood on the driveway. Got it, Marcus called out. Brake line's been partially cut. Not enough to fail immediately, but enough that repeated use would cause complete failure. Looks like he used a tool to score it. Make it look like wear and tear. Emma's knees went weak. Dante caught her elbow, steadied her. How long would it have taken to fail, she asked. Hard to say exactly. Maybe a week, maybe less if you did a lot of highway driving. Marcus slid back out from under the car. But once it went, you'd have had no brakes at all. At speed, that's fatal more often than not. Emma thought about the drive she'd planned for this weekend. Visit her mother in Portland, 3 hours on I-5. High speeds, mountain passes, nowhere to safely stop if the brakes failed. David had known about that trip. She'd mentioned it last week. He'd encouraged her to go, said she needed the break. Can you testify to this? Dante asked Marcus. Absolutely. I've got clear photos, documentation of the tool marks, everything you need for court. Get it all to Detective Chen, today. Marcus nodded and went back to work. Emma stood in her driveway and looked at her house with its blue paint and white trim and its carefully maintained lawn. and felt like she was looking at someone else's life. I need to get some things, she heard herself say. Clothes, documents. I can't just live in borrowed clothes forever. Go ahead. I'll wait here. Dante handed her gloves. Don't touch anything more than you have to. The house might be considered a crime scene once the prosecutor sees all the evidence. Emma pulled on the gloves and unlocked her own front door with hands that didn't feel connected to her body. The house smelled like home. Coffee and the lavender plug-in David had bought because Emma liked lavender. The kitchen was clean. David had done the dishes after she left last night, playing the good husband until the very end. She walked upstairs to the bedroom she'd shared with him for 4 years. The bed was made. David's side looked slept in, covers thrown back like he'd gotten up in a hurry. Probably had. Probably panicked when Emma didn't come home. Emma pulled a suitcase from the closet and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, the jewelry box her grandmother had left her, her medical school diploma. Photographs of her family, not her and David, never any good pictures of them together. Just her parents, her sister, her old life before this marriage. She found her passport in David's desk drawer, found other things too. A key she didn't recognize, a USB drive, a second phone, cheap prepaid thing, probably the one he used to text Rebecca. Emma took them all. Evidence, ammunition, proof that the man she'd married was a stranger. In the closet, she found the clothes David had bought for their anniversary last year. Designer dress, still had the tags on. She'd never had anywhere to wear it. Never had time. David had been disappointed but understanding. Understanding. Right. He'd probably been relieved. Easier to kill a wife who didn't demand anything, who didn't take up space, who made herself invisible. Emma left the dress in the closet. She didn't want it, didn't want anything he'd given her. Her phone rang. Regular phone, not the burner. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? Emma? Oh, thank God. David's voice, rough and panicked and wrong. I've been trying to reach you all morning. Where are you? Emma's blood went cold. How are you calling me? Aren't you arrested? What? No, Emma, something's happened. The police came to my office. They're saying I stole money, that I forged documents. It's insane. It's all a mistake. Where are you calling from? Emma's voice was flat. They let me make a call. I used it to reach you. Em, I need you to come down here. I need you to tell them this is crazy, that I would never... You cut my brake lines. Silence on the other end. Long enough that Emma thought he'd hung up. Then David's voice, quieter now. What? My car. You cut the brake lines. The forensic mechanic just documented it. You were planning to kill me, David. Emma, I don't know what you're talking about. I would never... The life insurance policy. The forged signature. The affair with Rebecca Chen. The $7 million you stole from your company. Emma's voice was shaking now. I know everything, so stop lying. Another long silence. When David spoke again, his voice had changed. Less panic, more calculation. Who told you all this? Does it matter? It matters because someone's been feeding you lies. Emma, I can explain everything. The insurance policy was for us, for our future. Rebecca is just a coworker. And the money, that's complicated, but it's not what it looks like. I saw the photographs. I saw the bank statements. I saw your search history. Emma was crying now, angry tears that felt like they'd been building for 4 years. You researched how to kill me. You researched undetectable poisons. Don't stand there and tell me it's not what it looks like. Emma, David's voice went soft, pleading. Please, you have to understand. I was in trouble. The money was supposed to fix everything. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did. You cut my brake lines. You were going to let me die on the highway. I wasn't going to, He stopped, started again. I didn't know what else to do. The company was auditing me. I needed the insurance money to cover what I took. It was supposed to look like an accident. You wouldn't have suffered. It would have been quick. Emma felt something inside her die. Some last hope that maybe this was all a misunderstanding, that maybe David had some explanation that would make sense of the insanity. But no. He'd just confessed, casually, like he was explaining a business decision. You're a monster, she whispered. I'm desperate. There's a difference. David's voice hardened. And you're not innocent here, Emma. You were never there. Always working, always too tired, always too busy for us. What kind of marriage was that? The kind where I don't murder you for insurance money. Emma, listen to me. We can fix this. Whatever you think you know, we can explain it. But I need you to come down here. I need you to help me." "No." "Emma." She hung up, turned the phone off completely, stood in her bedroom shaking so hard she had to sit down on the bed. He'd confessed. He'd actually confessed. And then blamed her for it. Footsteps on the stairs. Dante appeared in his doorway, hand on his weapon. "I heard you talking. Are you okay?" "He called me. From the police station." He confessed. Emma's voice sounded strange, too high and too fast. "He told me he cut the brake lines. He said it was supposed to be quick, like that makes it better." Dante's expression went dark. "That call was recorded. It's on the jail system. That's a full confession on tape. He tried to make it my fault. Said I was never there, that I made him desperate. Classic abuser logic." Dante crossed to where Emma sat and crouched down so they were eye level. "Listen to me very carefully. Nothing you did or didn't do justifies what he planned. He made choices, criminal choices, and now he's going to pay for them." "I believe you." Emma wiped her eyes. "I just can't believe I married him. What does that say about me?" "It says you were young and lonely and wanted something stable, and he was very good at pretending to be something he wasn't." Dante stood up. "Come on. We need to get that confession to Detective Chen immediately." They left the house. Emma locked the door behind her and realized she'd probably never come back. Maria would pack up the rest later, ship it wherever Emma ended up. But this house, this life, this version of herself who'd lived here, that was over. The bail hearing was scheduled for 2 p.m. Dante got Emma into the courthouse through a back entrance, avoiding reporters who'd somehow already caught wind that Grayson and Webb's golden boy had been arrested for embezzlement. They sat in a small room where Emma could watch through a video feed. She didn't want to be in the courtroom, didn't want to see David in person, wasn't ready for that yet. Detective Chen entered the courtroom with a folder Emma recognized. The evidence, all of it. And now, the recorded confession from the phone call. David's lawyer was expensive looking. Slick suit, confident smile. He started talking about David's clean record, his ties to the community, his shock at these allegations. Then the prosecutor stood up. "Your Honor, we have new evidence that substantially changes the nature of these charges. This morning, forensic examination of Mrs. Morrison's vehicle revealed that the brake lines had been deliberately tampered with. Surveillance footage from the defendant's home shows him accessing the vehicle 2 days ago. And 1 hour ago, the defendant called his wife from this facility and confessed to cutting those brake lines with the intent to cause her death." The courtroom went silent. Even through the video feed, Emma could see people's faces changing. David's lawyer looked blindsided. "Your Honor, we haven't seen any of this evidence because it was collected this morning and just now submitted. But we have the forensic report, the surveillance footage, and the recorded phone call. The state is adding charges of attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Given the severity of these charges and the defendant's clear willingness to harm his wife, we request bail be denied." The judge, older woman, steel gray hair, expression like granite, reviewed the documents, listened to a portion of the phone recording. Her face didn't change, but something in her posture did. "Bail is denied. The defendant will remain in custody pending trial." She looked at David. "Mr. Morrison, you have the right to appeal this decision. But given what I've just heard, I strongly suggest you focus your energy on preparing your defense." David stood there in his expensive suit with his expensive lawyer, and Emma watched him realize that his carefully constructed plan had failed completely. "Your Honor," David said, his voice desperate, "I need to explain. You'll have your opportunity in court, Mr. Morrison. Until then, you'll be remanded to the county jail." The judge banged her gavel. "Next case." Guards approached David. He looked around wildly, searching the courtroom. Emma knew what he was looking for. Her. One last chance to manipulate, to explain, to make her understand. She wasn't there. And she would never be there for him again. Dante turned off the video feed. "It's over. He's not getting out. How long until trial?" 4 to 6 months, probably. Maybe longer if his lawyer tries to drag it out. But with the confession and the physical evidence, there's not much room for defense. He'll probably take a plea deal. How much time? For embezzlement, fraud, and attempted murder? 20 to 30 years if he pleads. 40 to life if he goes to trial and loses. Emma tried to feel something about that, tried to feel satisfaction or vindication or relief, but all she felt was tired. "What now?" she asked. Now you start the hard part. Dante stood up. Building a life without him. Figuring out who Emma Morrison is when she's not trying to survive a marriage that was trying to kill her. I don't know where to start. Neither does anyone else. That's not unique to you. Dante handed her a business card, different from his usual one. This is Dr. Sarah Winters. She specializes in helping people recover from situations like yours. She's good. She won't let you wallow, but she won't push you before you're ready. Emma took the card. You've thought of everything. It's my job. Is it? She looked at him. Or is it something else? Dante's expression closed. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. You said someone should have stopped the 18th. Who were they? For a long moment, Dante didn't answer. Then he sighed. My sister. Her name was Sophia. Her husband spent 2 years planning her death. By the time anyone realized what was happening, she was dead. Car accident. Brake failure, actually. And her husband collected $2.5 million in insurance money and disappeared to somewhere without extradition treaties. Emma's chest ached. I'm sorry. I was FBI then. Financial Crimes Division. I saw the case file after she died. Saw all the things I should have noticed, all the warning signs I missed because I was too busy with work to pay attention to my own family. Dante's voice was flat, emotionless. So I quit. Started this firm. And I've spent 10 years making sure Sophia wasn't the last. That other women don't die because the people who are supposed to protect them are too slow or too blind or too wrapped up in procedure. 18 saved, Emma said softly, including me. 18 saved, 1 lost. Dante looked at her. I'll take that ratio. But I wish it was different. They stood in the courthouse hallway, 2 people bound together by violence that almost happened, by a man in jail and a woman who survived. Thank you, Emma said, for everything, for believing me before I even knew I needed to be believed. You're welcome. But Emma, Dante's expression was serious. The hard part isn't over. The trial will be brutal. His lawyer will try to paint you as vindictive, as someone who wanted out of the marriage and fabricated evidence. You'll have to testify. You'll have to face him in court. And then, when it's all over, you'll have to figure out how to trust people again, how to build relationships that aren't built on lies. I know. Do you? Dante's voice was gentle but ruthless. Because most people in your situation spend years being angry. They let what almost happened define them. They become professional victims, and I need you to promise me you won't do that. Emma bristled. I just found out my husband tried to kill me. I think I'm allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be furious, but fury is fuel, not an identity. Use it. Build something with it. Don't let it burn you up from the inside. He paused. Sophia was angry. At her husband, at the system, at me for not seeing. And that anger made her stay when she should have left. Made her believe she could fix him if she just tried hard enough. I don't want that for you. I'm not her. No, you're not. But you're at a crossroads. You can either become someone who almost died or someone who survived. Those are different people. Choose carefully. Emma wanted to argue, wanted to say he didn't understand, that he couldn't possibly know what this felt like. But looking at his face, she realized he did understand. He'd lived through it from the other side. He knew exactly what happened when anger became identity. I'll try, she said. That's all anyone can do. They left the courthouse through the same back entrance. The city looked different in afternoon light, sharper, more real, like Emma was seeing it clearly for the first time. Maria was waiting in the parking garage. How'd it go? Bail denied, he's staying locked up. Dante opened the car door for Emma. Take her back to the safe house. I'll handle the media if they start sniffing around. Wait. Emma stopped. How long do I have to stay in hiding? Until the trial, technically. But the immediate danger is over. David's locked up, his assets are frozen. He can't hire anyone to hurt you. Dante considered. If you want to go home, to your mother's, to a hotel, wherever, you can. Maria can stay with you for a while if you feel safer with protection. What would you recommend? I'd recommend taking a week to breathe. Stay in the safe house. Talk to Dr. Winters. Start processing everything that happened. Then make decisions about where you want to live and what you want to do next. Dante's expression softened slightly. You've been in crisis mode for 48 hours. Your brain needs time to catch up with what your body already knows. Emma nodded. The safe house it was then. A week of breathing. A week of figuring out who she was without David's shadow over everything. Maria drove them back in silence. Emma watched the city pass by and thought about the last time she'd driven these streets. 2 days ago. A completely different person in a completely different life. The safe house felt less foreign now. Still not home, but not hostile. Just a place where she could exist without performing, without pretending, without being anyone except the exhausted, angry, relieved woman she actually was. "I'm going to order food," Maria said. "What sounds good?" "I don't care." "Ty it is." Maria pulled out her phone. "You should eat something real. You haven't had a decent meal in days." Emma wanted to argue that she wasn't hungry, that food seemed impossible, but her body had other ideas. Her stomach growled loudly enough that Maria laughed. "Your body knows what it needs even if your brain doesn't. That's good. Means you're still functioning." The food arrived 40 minutes later. Emma ate mechanically at first, then with actual appetite. Pad thai and spring rolls and mango sticky rice that tasted better than anything she'd eaten in months. "When's the last time you had a meal you actually enjoyed?" Maria asked, watching her. Emma thought about it. "I don't remember." "That's what I thought." Maria ate her own food. "Let me guess. You ate at the hospital, usually standing up. Fast food on the way home because you were too tired to cook. And David never cooked, did he?" "Sometimes, when he wanted something." Emma paused. "Everything was transactional. I just didn't see it. That's how they work. Make you think you're building something together when really you're just serving their needs." Maria finished her spring roll. "My ex-husband was like that, except he used fists instead of financial manipulation. Took me 3 years to leave, another 2 to stop being angry." "Did it work? Stopping being angry?" "Mostly. I still have moments, but I built something better. That helps." Maria gestured around the safe house. "This job, for example, I get to help people who were where I was. That matters more than staying angry at one asshole who doesn't deserve the energy." Emma looked at her. "Is that what Dante's doing? Building something better?" "Yeah, he just does it on a bigger scale." Maria smiled. "Man's got a savior complex the size of Texas, but at least he's channeling it productively." The burner phone buzzed. Text from Dante. "Check your email. Regular account. I sent you something important." Emma pulled out her laptop. Maria had retrieved it from the house along with other essentials, and logged into her email. The message from Dante contained a single attachment, a video file. She clicked it. The video showed David's interrogation room at the police station. David sat across from Detective Chen, his lawyer beside him. The timestamp showed this afternoon, after the bail hearing. "Mr. Morrison," Chen said, "would you like to revise your earlier statement?" "What earlier statement?" David looked genuinely confused. "The phone call you made to your wife this morning. The one where you admitted to cutting her brake lines." David's face went pale, then red. "That was taken out of context." "I have the full recording. Would you like me to play it?" "No. David looked at his lawyer, who was staring at him with barely contained fury. "I was upset. I didn't mean... You said, and I quote, 'I needed the insurance money to cover what I took. It was supposed to look like an accident. You wouldn't have suffered. It would have been quick.'" Chen's voice was level. "That sounds pretty clear to me." David slumped in his chair. His lawyer whispered something Emma couldn't hear. "My client declines to answer further questions at this time," the lawyer said. "That's fine. We have what we need." Chen stood up. "Mr. Morrison, you're looking at 40 years to life. Maybe more depending on what else we find. I strongly suggest you start thinking about a plea deal." The video ended. Emma stared at the blank screen. That was it. The moment David realized his life was over. The moment everything he'd built, the career, the reputation, the carefully maintained facade, crumbled completely. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just empty. Her phone rang. Regular phone, number she didn't recognize. She answered anyway. "Hello? Emma? It's Rebecca Chen." Emma's hand tightened on the phone. The other woman. The affair. The reason, or one of the reasons, David had decided Emma was expendable. "What do you want?" Emma's voice was cold. I saw the news about David, the arrest. I didn't know." Rebecca's voice was shaking. "I didn't know about any of it. The money, the insurance policy, What he was planning to do to you, I swear I didn't know. But you knew he was married. Silence. Then, yes, I knew that. And you didn't care. I thought he said you were separated, that it was just a matter of paperwork, that you had an agreement. Emma laughed, sharp, bitter. We were never separated. We had dinner together the night before he was arrested. He told me he loved me, and then he went to work and probably called you. I'm so sorry. Rebecca sounded like she was crying. I know that doesn't mean anything. I know I helped destroy your marriage. But I need you to know I never would have. If I'd known what he was planning, I would have stopped him. I would have called the police. Would you? Emma wasn't sure she believed that. Wasn't sure it mattered. Yes, I'm not a good person, Emma. I slept with someone's husband, but I'm not a murderer, and I'm not okay with murder. Rebecca took a shaky breath. I talked to the police. Told them everything I knew. About David's stress over work, the money problems he never explained, his obsession with insurance policies. I don't know if it helps, but I told them. Emma wanted to hate her, wanted to blame her for everything that happened. But Rebecca Chen was just another person David had used and lied to. Did you love him? Emma asked. I thought I did. Now I don't know what I felt, maybe just the excitement of something forbidden. Rebecca paused. Did you? Emma thought about it, really thought. I don't think so. I think I loved the idea of him, the stability, the not being alone. But him, the real him, I don't think I ever knew him well enough to love him. I'm sorry, Rebecca said again, for everything. Me too. Emma hung up, looked at Maria, who'd been pretending not to listen. That was the other woman. I gathered. How do you feel? Tired. Emma set the phone down. Just really, really tired. Then sleep. That's what the bedroom's for. For the first time in 48 hours, Emma did. Emma woke up 12 hours later to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee she hadn't made. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. David, the arrest, the confession, the life that had ended 2 days ago, even though her heart was still beating. She found Maria in the kitchen reading something on her tablet. You missed breakfast. Want lunch? What time is it? Almost 1. You slept through the night and half the day. Maria poured coffee without asking. Your body needed it. Emma took the cup and sat at the small kitchen table. Outside the window, the city moved on like nothing had happened. People going to work, running errands, living lives that didn't include husbands who tried to murder them for insurance money. Detective Chen called, Maria said. David's lawyer approached the prosecutor about a plea deal. Sounds like he knows he's screwed. How much time? 25 years. He'd be eligible for parole in 17 if he behaves. Maria set a plate of food in front of Emma. Eggs, toast, fruit. Chen said they're pushing for 30, but David's lawyer is fighting. Either way, he won't see freedom until he's in his 60s. Emma tried to feel something about that. Relief, maybe. Or satisfaction, but all she felt was hollow. There's something else, Maria said carefully. Your hospital called. They want to know when you're coming back. I don't know. That's fair, but you should probably call them. Let them know something. Emma looked at her phone. 7 missed calls from the hospital. 14 texts from colleagues asking if she was okay, if David was really arrested, if the news stories were true. Her life had become public property in 48 hours. She called Dr. Reeves. He answered on the first ring. Emma, Jesus Christ, are you okay? I'm alive. It was the most honest answer she had. The news is saying David tried to kill you, that he cut your brake lines. It's true. Emma's voice was flat. All of it. The embezzlement, the affair, the attempted murder. It's all true. Reeves was quiet for a long moment. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. None of us did. I didn't either. Not until someone told me. Emma picked at the eggs on her plate. I need some time off. I don't know how much. A few weeks. Maybe longer. Take all the time you need. We'll cover your shifts. Just focus on taking care of yourself. Thank you. Emma? For what it's worth, you're one of the strongest people I know. You're going to get through this. Emma wanted to believe him. Couldn't quite manage it. I'll call you when I'm ready to come back. She hung up and stared at the food she couldn't taste. Maria watched her with the quiet assessment of someone who'd seen this before. You're in shock, Maria said. That's normal. You'll probably be in shock for a while. How long is a while? Weeks? Maybe months. Everyone's different. Maria sat down across from her. But eventually you'll wake up one morning and realize you're angry instead of numb. That's when the real work starts. What real work? Figuring out who you are without him, what you want, what kind of life you're going to build. Maria's expression was serious. Because right now you're in survival mode. But you can't stay there forever. Eventually you have to start living again. Emma thought about that. Living. The concept felt foreign, like a language she used to speak but had forgotten. Her phone buzzed. Text from Dante. How are you feeling? She typed back. Numb. That's expected. Are you up for a visitor? I have some paperwork you need to sign. Sure. Dante arrived an hour later looking less polished than usual. His suit was still perfect, but there were shadows under his eyes that suggested he'd been working non-stop. The prosecutor wants your statement, he said, setting a folder on the kitchen table. Full written account of everything that happened. The police interview, the confession phone call, finding out about the affair, all of it. Emma looked at the blank legal forms. When do they need it? End of the week. But I'd recommend doing it sooner. Get it over with while the details are fresh. Fresh? Emma laughed without humor. Like it's something that might go stale. You know what I mean. Dante pulled out a chair. Also, there's the matter of the house. Technically, it's in David's name, but you lived there for 4 years. You're entitled to half its value in the divorce. Divorce? Emma hadn't even thought about that. Right. Because I'm still married to him. Not for long. I have a lawyer who specializes in cases like yours. She'll handle everything. Asset division, restraining orders, making sure David can't contact you from prison. Dante slid another business card across the table. Her name is Patricia Voss. She's ruthless in the best possible way. Emma took the card, added it to the growing collection of professionals helping her dismantle her old life. There's one more thing, Dante said. His tone changed, became more careful. David's been trying to contact you. Letters, mostly. The jail screens them, but they're piling up. I wanted you to know in case you decide you want to read them. I don't. You might change your mind later. I won't. Emma's voice was hard. Whatever he has to say, I don't want to hear it. He lost the right to explain himself when he cut my brake lines. Dante nodded. Fair enough. I'll tell the jail to stop forwarding them. He started to leave, then paused at the door. Dr. Morrison. Emma. I know this feels impossible right now, but you're going to survive this. You already are surviving it. Surviving isn't the same as living. No, but it's the first step. He met her eyes. And when you're ready for the second step, call me. I know people who can help. After he left, Emma sat with the blank statement forms and tried to figure out how to reduce her life to legal language. How to explain that she'd been married to a stranger, that she'd loved someone who never existed, that she'd almost died because she worked too hard and asked for too little. She started writing. The words came slowly at first, then faster, page after page of everything that had happened. The break room confrontation, the evidence folder, the dinner where she'd pretended everything was fine while David planned her death, the phone call where he'd confessed like he was discussing the weather. By the time she finished, it was dark outside and her hand hurt from writing. Maria read through it, made a few suggestions about clarity, then nodded. This is good, clear. The prosecutor will love it. Emma signed the bottom of the last page and felt something shift. This was real now. Official. She was testifying against her husband. She was choosing to destroy whatever remained of the life they'd built together, except they'd never built anything together. That was the lie she'd been living. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. Emma almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Dr. Morrison? This is Patricia Voss. Dante Caruso asked me to call you about your divorce. That was fast. I don't waste time, and neither should you. Patricia's voice was brisk, efficient. I've reviewed the basic facts of your case. Here's what I need from you. Every financial document you can access, bank statements, tax returns, investment accounts, credit card bills, everything. If David hid money, I'll find it. Most of the financial stuff was in his name. I didn't pay much attention. That's what he was counting on. But I'm very good at finding hidden assets. Patricia paused. I also need to know if you want anything from the house, personal items, furniture, anything with sentimental value. We can arrange for you to collect them while David's in custody. Emma thought about the house, the bed she'd shared with David, the kitchen where they'd eaten their last dinner, the garage where he'd sabotaged her car. I don't want anything. Are you sure? Some clients regret that decision later. I'm sure. It all feels contaminated now. Emma's voice was tired. Just get me whatever money I'm entitled to and make sure he can never contact me again. Done. I'll file the divorce petition tomorrow and have the restraining order in place by end of week. Patricia's tone softened slightly. Dr. Morrison, I've handled cases like yours before. It gets better, not quickly and not easily, but it does get better. Everyone keeps saying that because it's true. The first month is survival. The second month is anger. The third month is when you start remembering who you were before him. Patricia paused. And eventually, you become someone new, someone stronger. Trust the process. After the call ended, Emma sat in the darkening apartment and thought about becoming someone new, someone stronger. The idea felt impossible and necessary at the same time. Maria emerged from the bedroom where she'd been giving Emma privacy. You eaten dinner? No? Then we're ordering pizza. And you're going to eat it and watch something stupid on TV and remember how to be a normal person for 2 hours. I don't think I can do normal. Good thing I didn't ask. Maria pulled out her phone. Pepperoni or supreme? They ate pizza and watched a cooking competition show where the stakes were completely artificial and no one was trying to murder anyone. Emma found herself almost laughing at one point when a contestant's souffle collapsed. The sound felt foreign in her throat. There it is, Maria said. Proof you're still human. Barely. Barely counts. Maria finished her slice. You should call your family. Let them know you're okay. Emma had been avoiding that. Her mother had left 6 voicemails. Her sister had texted 20 times. They'd seen the news. They wanted to help, but Emma didn't know how to explain any of this to people who'd never understand. She called her mother anyway. Emma, her mother's voice cracked. Oh, sweetheart, I've been so worried. I'm okay, Mom. I'm safe. The news said David tried to kill you. They said he cut your car. Is that true? Yes. Emma's voice was steady. It's all true. He was stealing money from his company, and he needed insurance money to cover it up. I was worth more dead than alive. Her mother made a sound that might have been a sob. I never liked him. I know I never said it, but I didn't. He always seemed so cold. You never said anything. Because you seemed happy. Or at least, you seemed like you'd made a choice and I wanted to respect that. Her mother's voice was fierce now. But I should have said something. I should have told you that you deserved better than a man who looked at you like you were a convenience. Emma felt tears building behind her eyes. I don't know if I would have listened. Probably not. You were always stubborn. A pause. Come home. Come stay with me for a while. Let me take care of you. I can't yet. There's the trial and the divorce, and I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. You can figure it out from here. You don't have to do this alone. I know, but I need to do it this way. Emma wiped her eyes. I'll come visit soon. I promise. I just need some time first. They talked for another 20 minutes. Her mother told her about the garden and the neighbors and all the small, normal things that made up a life Emma had forgotten existed. When they hung up, Emma felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Good call? Maria asked. She wants me to come home. Do you want to? Emma thought about it. Her mother's house in Portland, her childhood bedroom, the safety of being someone's daughter instead of someone's almost victim. No, not yet. I need to stand on my own first. Good answer. Maria stood up and stretched. I'm going to do a perimeter check. You should get some sleep. Tomorrow, you meet with Dr. Winters. Emma had forgotten about the therapist. The thought of explaining all of this to another stranger made her want to hide in bed and never come out. But she didn't. She showered, changed into borrowed pajamas, lay down in the unfamiliar bed, and stared at the ceiling until sleep finally came. The nightmares started that night. In them, she was driving on the highway, and the brakes failed, and she was hurtling toward a concrete barrier with no way to stop. Or she was at the hospital and David walked in wearing scrubs, and no one else could see that he didn't belong there. Or she was back in their kitchen making dinner while David stood behind her with something sharp in his hand. She woke up gasping at 3 a.m. Maria was there immediately, weapon drawn, scanning the room for threats. Just a nightmare, Emma managed. Your brain processing trauma. That's normal too. Maria holstered her weapon. Want some water? They sat in the kitchen drinking water while the city slept around them. Emma felt fragile and exposed, like one wrong word would shatter her completely. "Does it stop?" she asked. "The nightmares?" "Eventually, but you'll probably have them for a while." Maria's expression was sympathetic. "Your brain is trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. Give it time." Doctor. Sarah Winters' office was in a building downtown that looked more like someone's home than a medical facility. Comfortable furniture, soft lighting, plants everywhere, nothing clinical or cold. Dr. Winters herself was younger than Emma expected, maybe 50, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much to be shocked by anything. "Dr. Morrison, thank you for coming." She gestured to a chair. "Dante's told me about your situation, but I'd like to hear it from you." Emma sat down and tried to figure out where to start. The beginning, the end, the moment she realized her entire life was a lie? "My husband tried to kill me," she said finally, "and I didn't see it coming." "Why do you think that is?" "Because I was too busy, too tired, too focused on work to notice my marriage was falling apart." "Or," Dr. Winters said gently, "because your husband was very good at hiding who he really was. Those aren't the same thing." Emma felt something crack open in her chest. "Everyone keeps saying that it's not my fault, but I lived with him for 4 years. How did I not see it?" "Because you were looking at who you thought he was, not who he actually was. And he worked very hard to maintain that illusion." Dr. Winters leaned forward. "Emma, I need you to hear this. You are not responsible for someone else's capacity for violence. You're not responsible for David's choices. The only thing you're responsible for is what you do next." "What if I don't know what to do next?" "Then we figure it out together. That's what I'm here for." They talked for an hour. Dr. Winters didn't push, didn't probe too hard, just asked questions and listened to Emma stumble through answers she wasn't sure she believed. "I want you to think about something," Dr. Winters said as the session ended. "Right now, you're defining yourself by what almost happened to you. You're David's almost victim, the woman who almost died. But that's not who you are. That's something that happened to you. There's a difference." "I don't feel like there's a difference." "I know, but there will be. And when you're ready to see it, you'll start becoming someone new." Dr. Winters handed her a card. "I want to see you 3 times a week for the next month. After that, we'll reassess. Can you commit to that?" Emma looked at the card. 3 times a week. 3 times a week of talking about the worst thing that ever happened to her. "Yes," she said anyway. The days started to blend together. Emma stayed in the safe house, attended therapy sessions, signed divorce papers, gave statements to prosecutors. Slowly, mechanically rebuilt a life from the wreckage David had left behind. 2 weeks after David's arrest, Patricia Voss called with news. David's lawyer accepted the plea deal. 27 years, eligible for parole in 18. He'll be sentenced next month. So it's over. The criminal case is. The divorce will take another few months, but yes, the immediate danger is over. Patricia paused. There's something else. David signed over everything. The house, the accounts, half his pension. He didn't fight anything. Emma didn't know what to make of that. Why? My guess, guilt or strategy. Maybe he thinks if he's cooperative now, you'll speak at his parole hearing in 18 years and say nice things. Patricia's voice was dry. Don't fall for it. Men like David don't change. They just get better at hiding. I won't. Good. I'll have the final papers for you to sign by end of month. Emma hung up and sat with the news. It was over. David would go to prison. She would get the house and the money and her freedom, everything she was entitled to by law. So why did it still feel like she'd lost something? Because you did lose something, Dr. Winters said in their next session. You lost the future you thought you were building. Even if that future was built on lies, you still believed in it. It's okay to grieve that. I don't want to grieve him. He doesn't deserve it. You're not grieving him. You're grieving the life you thought you had, the person you thought you were. That version of Emma who believed in stable marriages and safe choices. Dr. Winters' voice was gentle. She's gone, and you need to mourn her before you can become whoever comes next. Emma thought about the woman she'd been a month ago, tired, invisible, working herself to exhaustion because at least exhaustion felt purposeful, living in a marriage that was slowly killing her and calling it stability. I don't miss her, Emma said. Good. That means you're ready to move forward. 3 weeks after David's arrest, Emma left the safe house. Maria had been reassigned. The immediate danger was over. Emma rented a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just one bedroom with good light and a kitchen she actually wanted to cook in. She didn't go back to work yet. Wasn't ready for that. Instead, she started doing things she'd never made time for. Joined a yoga class. Started reading again. Cooked meals that took hours and tasted like something more than fuel. Dante called occasionally to check in. His team was finishing the asset recovery from David's offshore accounts. $7 million, most of which would go back to Grayson and Webb. But there'd be penalties and fines, and Emma would see some of it eventually. "How are you doing?" Dante asked during one of these calls. "Better. Worse. Different." Emma looked around her new apartment. "I'm learning how to be alone without being lonely." "That's good progress." "Is it?" Emma sat down on her couch. Her couch, not furniture she'd inherited from David. "Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions. Pretending to be okay until I actually am." "Fake it till you make it is an underrated strategy." Dante's voice was serious. "You're doing the work. That's what matters." "Thank you," Emma said suddenly, "for everything. For believing me, for saving my life." "You saved your own life. I just provided logistics." "Still, thank you." After they hung up, Emma sat in her apartment and thought about what it meant to save your own life. Not the dramatic version, not stopping someone's fist or dodging a bullet, but the quiet version. The choosing to leave, the choosing to survive, the choosing to build something new even when the old thing left nothing but rubble. She was doing that, slowly, imperfectly. But she was doing it. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for a Friday in October. Emma didn't want to go, didn't want to see David, didn't want to hear whatever excuse he'd prepared. But Patricia insisted. "Victims have a right to speak at sentencing. You should be there." So Emma went. She walked into the courtroom wearing a dress she'd bought herself. Sat in the front row with Patricia beside her. And waited. David was brought in wearing prison orange. He looked smaller somehow, older. Like prison had already started eating away at whatever he used to be. He saw Emma. Their eyes met. She felt nothing. The judge reviewed the plea agreement. 27 years for embezzlement, fraud, attempted murder. David would be almost 70 when he got out. His life, for all practical purposes, was over. "Does the victim wish to make a statement?" the judge asked. Patricia nudged Emma. "You don't have to." But Emma stood up anyway, walked to the microphone, looked at David. "4 years ago, I married you because I thought you were safe, boring, predictable. Everything I thought I wanted after years of chaos and instability." Her voice was steady. "But you weren't safe. You were dangerous in the quietest possible way. You made me small. You made me invisible. And when I stopped being useful, you decided I was disposable." David's lawyer whispered something to him. He shook his head. "I'm not going to say I forgive you. I don't. I'm not going to say I hope you find peace. I don't care if you do." Emma's hands were shaking, but her voice wasn't. "I'm just going to say thank you, because trying to kill me was the best thing you ever did for me. It woke me up. It showed me who I'd become. And now I get to become someone else, someone who doesn't disappear to make other people comfortable." She sat down. The judge sentenced David to 27 years. He was led away without looking back. Emma walked out of the courthouse into October sunshine and felt something inside her chest expand. Not happiness, not relief, just space, room to breathe, room to become. Patricia walked her to her car. That was a hell of a statement. It was the truth. The best ones usually are. Patricia handed her a final folder. "Divorce is finalized. You're officially Emma Morrison, single woman, or you can go back to your maiden name if you prefer." Emma thought about it. Emma Williams. Emma Morrison. Neither felt quite right anymore. "I'll think about it." She drove back to her apartment, made dinner, called her mother, and talked about nothing important. Went to bed early, and for the first time in a month, she didn't have nightmares. 6 months after David's sentencing, Emma walked into the hospital for the first time since the night Dante had made her disappear. She'd spent those months in therapy, in her new apartment, rebuilding herself piece by piece. But eventually, Dr. Winters had looked at her and said what Emma already knew. "You're ready to go back, not because you have to, because you want to." And she did want to. Medicine had been hers long before David. It was the one part of her life he'd never touched, never poisoned. Going back felt like reclaiming something that had always belonged to her. Dr. Reeves met her in the parking lot. You sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. He smiled. That's the Emma I remember. The hospital looked the same, smelled the same. The fluorescent lights still buzzed with that familiar dying insect sound. But Emma felt different walking through those doors. Taller somehow. More solid. Like she took up actual space instead of apologizing for existing. Her colleagues welcomed her back with careful smiles and carefully worded questions. They knew the basics. Everyone knew the basics. The news had covered David's case extensively. Embezzling husband tries to murder wife for insurance money. The story practically wrote itself. But they didn't know the details. Didn't know about the brake lines or the forged signature or the phone call where David had confessed like he was discussing dinner plans. Emma didn't tell them. Some things were hers to keep. She threw herself into work the way she always had, except now it felt different. Before, work had been escape. Now it was choice. She took lunch breaks, left on time when her shift ended, said no to extra coverage when she was tired. You've changed, Reeves said one afternoon, watching her actually eat her lunch instead of just carrying it around. I almost died. That tends to change people. It's more than that. You're different, present. He paused. It suits you. Emma thought about that. Present. She'd spent 4 years being absent from her own life, being small and quiet and accommodating, making herself disappear so David could take up all the space. Never again. 3 months after returning to work, Emma got a call from Dante. She hadn't heard from him in weeks. Their regular check-ins had tapered off as she'd gotten steadier on her feet. I have a proposition for you, he said without preamble. That sounds ominous. It's not. I hope. She heard him take a breath. I'm starting a new program. Support services for people in situations like yours was. People who need help getting out, getting safe, rebuilding. Medical support is a big part of that. I need a doctor who understands what they're going through. Emma sat down on her couch. You want me to work for you? Part-time, a few hours a week. You'd provide medical consultations, help people navigate the healthcare system, offer a perspective that security professionals can't. Dante's voice was careful. I know it's asking a lot. If you're not ready, I'll do it. Silence on the other end. Then, you don't want to think about it? I've been thinking about it for months. What comes after survival? How to use what happened instead of just carrying it around. Emma looked around her apartment. Small, imperfect, completely hers. This is how. She started the following week. One afternoon, a week at Dante's office, meeting with people who were where she'd been 6 months ago. Terrified, disoriented, trying to figure out how their lives had become something that required private security and escape plans. The first person Emma met was a woman named Lisa, mid-30s, accountant, married 8 years. Her husband had been slowly poisoning her antihistamines with something that mimicked heart problems. She'd been in the hospital twice before someone finally tested for toxins. I feel so stupid, Lisa said, sitting across from Emma in one of Dante's conference rooms. I'm an accountant. I work with numbers. I should have seen the financial manipulation. I should have known. You're not stupid, Emma said quietly. You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupidity. That's being human. But how did I not see it? Because he didn't want you to see it, and people who are good at hiding things are very, very good. Emma leaned forward. I didn't see it either, not until someone showed me evidence I couldn't ignore. And even then, part of me wanted to believe it was a mistake. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. Does it get better? Yes. Not quickly, not easily, but yes. Emma handed her a tissue. Right now you're in survival mode. Your brain is just trying to get you through each day. But eventually, you'll wake up and realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're actually living again. How long did that take you? Emma thought about it. About the nightmares that still came occasionally. About the moments where she still checked her rearview mirror compulsively. About the fact that she couldn't bring herself to date anyone because the thought of trusting that way again felt impossible. I'm still working on it, she admitted. But I'm closer than I was 6 months ago, and I'll be closer 6 months from now. That's what progress looks like. Small steps forward, even when it feels like you're standing still. Over the following months, Emma met with dozens of people, men and women from all backgrounds, all professions, all walks of life. The only thing they had in common was that someone they loved had tried to hurt them. She listened to their stories, provided medical advice, connected them with resources. And slowly, almost without realizing it, she started to heal the parts of herself that therapy alone couldn't reach. Dr. Winters noticed. "You're doing better." "I am." "What changed?" Emma thought about Lisa and the others, about being able to help people navigate something she'd barely survived herself. "I'm not just a victim anymore. I'm someone who survived and is doing something useful with it. That's significant progress." Dr. Winters smiled. "So significant that I think we can reduce our sessions to once a week." "Really?" "Really. You've done the work, Emma. You've rebuilt your life. You've found purpose. That's what recovery looks like." Emma left that session feeling lighter than she had in months. She stopped for coffee on the way home. Good coffee. The expensive kind she used to think was wasteful. Sat in the cafe and watched people live their normal lives and felt like she was part of that normalcy again. Her phone buzzed. Text from Dante. "Can you come by the office tomorrow? Something I want to show you." She texted back, "Sure." "What time?" "Noon." Emma arrived at Dante's office the next day to find Maria waiting in the lobby. They'd stayed in touch after the safe house, occasional coffee dates where Maria never asked how Emma was doing, and Emma appreciated the lack of pressure. "He's been cryptic about this all week," Maria said, walking Emma back to the conference room. "Won't tell anyone what he's planning." Dante was waiting with a folder that Emma recognized, the same kind he'd given her that first night in the hospital break room, except this one had Emma's name on it. "Sit," he said. Emma sat. Maria stayed standing by the door, arms crossed, looking amused. Dante slid the folder across the table. "Open it." Inside were incorporation documents, articles of organization for a nonprofit called the Sophia Foundation, mission statement focused on providing support, resources, and escape assistance for people in dangerous domestic situations. Medical director listed is Dr. Emma Morrison. Emma looked up. "What is this?" "Something I should have started 10 years ago. Something I'm starting now." Dante's expression was serious. "I've been running these cases on an ad hoc basis, helping people when they cross my path, when clients hire me to track their money and I find something darker. But it's not systematic, it's not sustainable, and there are too many people falling through the cracks. So you're creating a foundation." "We're creating a foundation, if you're interested." Dante leaned back in his chair. "I'll handle operations, security, logistics. Maria will run the protection detail team, but we need someone who understands the medical side, the psychological side. Someone who's been where these people are and came out the other side." Emma stared at the documents. Medical director. An actual title. An actual job that wasn't just a few hours a week consulting, but a real position making real decisions about how to help people. "Why Sophia?" she asked. "My sister. The 18th case. The one I didn't save." Dante's voice was quiet. "If I'd started this 10 years ago, maybe she'd still be alive. I can't change that, but I can make sure other people's sisters survive." Emma felt tears building behind her eyes. "This is a lot of responsibility. You're ready for it. You've been ready for months. You just needed to see it for yourself." Dante pushed the folder closer. "Think about it. Take your time." "But Emma, this could help a lot of people, and I think it could help you too." She took the folder home, read through it 3 times, called Dr. Winters and talked through the implications, called her mother, and listened to her say she was proud, called Reeves and asked if the hospital would let her reduce to part-time. "Are you sure?" Reeves asked. "You just got back to full-time." "I'm sure. This is important work. It matters." "Then yes, we'll make it work." Emma called Dante the next morning. "I'm in." The Sophia Foundation officially launched 3 months later. They rented office space downtown, hired a small staff, established protocols for intake and assessment and protection. Emma worked 3 days a week at the hospital and 3 days at the foundation. Her life was fuller than it had ever been during her marriage to David, and it felt right. Their first official case was a man named Thomas, whose wife had been systematically isolating him from friends and family while draining their accounts. He'd tried to leave twice. She'd threatened suicide both times. He felt trapped. Emma sat across from him and saw herself from a year ago, exhausted, confused, not sure who to trust. "You're not responsible for her choices," Emma said. "Not her threats, not her manipulation, not her financial abuse. You're only responsible for getting yourself safe. But what if she actually does something? Then that's her choice, not yours." Emma's voice was firm. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. That's not love. That's just burning. They helped Thomas leave, set him up in a safe location, connected him with legal resources. 6 months later, he sent Emma a thank you card with a photo of himself at a new job, smiling, free. It was the first of many. Emma found herself working longer hours than she had at the hospital, but it didn't drain her the same way. This work fed something in her that medicine alone couldn't. The ability to look someone in the eye and say, I survived this, and you will too, and actually mean it. A year after the foundation launched, Emma was working late when Dante knocked on her office door. You should go home. It's almost 9, says the man who's still here at 9. Emma finished typing her notes. I'm almost done. You're always almost done. Dante leaned against the doorframe. You're going to burn out if you're not careful. I'm fine. You're working 6 days a week between the hospital and here. That's not fine. That's how you end up exhausted and making mistakes. Emma looked at him. Really looked. Dante had been there from the beginning. The stranger in the break room who'd told her impossible truths. The man who'd saved her life and then helped her rebuild it into something better. Why do you care? She asked. Because you matter. The work matters. And I don't want to watch someone burn themselves out trying to save everyone. His expression softened. You're allowed to have a life outside of work, Emma. You're allowed to be more than what you do. I don't know how to do that yet. Then learn. Start small. Take a day off. Read a book. Go somewhere you've never been. Dante paused. Live your life instead of just surviving it. Emma thought about that conversation for days, about the difference between surviving and living, about the fact that she'd spent a year rebuilding herself but hadn't actually figured out what she was building toward. She started taking Sundays off. Actually off, not working from home or checking emails. She went hiking, visited her mother, started painting, badly, terribly, but it didn't matter because it was just for her. And slowly, the edges of her life started to soften. She wasn't just Dr. Morrison, the survivor, anymore. She was Emma. Complicated, imperfect, still figuring things out, but alive in a way she'd never been during her marriage. 18 months after David's sentencing, Emma got a letter from the prison. She almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. Inside was a letter from David. His handwriting looked the same, neat, controlled, the handwriting of someone who'd forged her signature without hesitation. Emma, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't blame you if you burned this without reading it, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught, sorry for what I did, sorry for trying to kill you. Prison gives you a lot of time to think, to see yourself clearly for maybe the first time, and I don't like what I see. I was a coward. I was selfish. I was willing to murder you rather than face the consequences of my own choices. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve that. I'm just asking that, I understand what I did, and I'm glad I failed. I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you got away from me. I hope you're building something good. I hope you're happy. I hope you forget I ever existed. Emma read the letter twice. Then she put it in her desk drawer and went back to work. She didn't write back, didn't forgive him, didn't feel the need to respond to his attempt at redemption, because it didn't matter what David thought or felt or understood. He'd made his choices. She'd made hers. And her choices had led to something better than anything they'd built together. That evening, Emma had dinner with Dante and Maria at a restaurant downtown. It had become a monthly tradition, the three of them comparing notes about cases, sharing updates on people they'd helped, decompressing from work that could be brutal. I got a letter from David, Emma said over dessert. Maria's fork paused midway to her mouth. What did it say? That he's sorry, that he's glad I survived. Emma shrugged. Standard prison redemption narrative. Are you okay? Dante asked. I'm fine. It doesn't hurt anymore. He's just someone I used to know who made terrible choices. Emma finished her coffee. I've been thinking about something, though. What's that? Expanding the foundation, opening offices in other cities, making this bigger than just us. Emma looked at them both. We're helping people, but there are so many more who need help, who don't know where to go or who to trust. Dante leaned back in his chair, considering. That would require significant funding, infrastructure, people we can trust in multiple locations. I know, but we could do it. We have the model. We know what works. Emma's voice was passionate now. We could save so many more people. She's right, Maria said. We turn away cases every week because we don't have capacity. If we expanded, we could actually make a difference on a scale that matters. Dante was nodding now, the wheels turning. I know some people, foundations that might fund this kind of work. Let me make some calls. Over the next 6 months, they built the expansion plan, secured funding from 3 major foundations, hired staff in 5 cities, established protocols and training programs. The Sophia Foundation went from a small operation helping dozens of people to a national organization helping hundreds. Emma cut back to part-time at the hospital to focus on the foundation full-time. It felt right. Medicine would always be part of who she was. But this work, helping people escape, helping them rebuild, this was her calling. 2 years after David's sentencing, Emma was giving a talk at a domestic violence prevention conference when she saw a familiar face in the audience. Rebecca Chen, the other woman, the affair partner who'd been as used and manipulated as Emma herself. After the talk, Rebecca approached her. Dr. Morrison, I wasn't sure if you'd remember me. I remember. Emma's voice was neutral, not hostile, not friendly, just factual. Your talk was powerful. The work you're doing, it's important. Rebecca hesitated. I wanted you to know that I've been volunteering with a similar organization in my area, helping women leave toxic relationships. It's my way of making amends, I guess, for my part in what happened. Emma studied her. Rebecca looked different than in the photographs Dante had shown her. Older, tired, like she'd spent 2 years carrying guilt that wouldn't ease. You weren't responsible for David's choices, Emma said finally. You didn't know what he was planning. You were just another person he lied to. Still, I helped destroy your marriage. He destroyed my marriage. You were just convenient. Emma's voice softened slightly. But I appreciate the apology, and I'm glad you're doing good work now. They talked for a few more minutes. Not friends. They'd never be friends. But not enemies either. Just 2 people who'd survived the same man and come out the other side changed. That night, Emma sat in her apartment and thought about how far she'd come. From the woman who'd made herself invisible in her own marriage to someone who took up space unapologetically, from someone who'd almost died because she didn't ask for help, to someone who built an entire organization around asking for help. She'd survived. More than that, she'd transformed. Her phone rang. Dante. Sorry to call late, but I have news. Good news or bad news? Good news. The board approved the expansion to 10 more cities. We'll be national by end of year. Emma felt something expand in her chest. Pride, purpose, joy. That's incredible. It's because of you, the model you built, the protocols you established. None of this would exist without you. Dante paused. I'm proud of you, Emma. Not just for surviving, for building something that matters. After they hung up, Emma stood at her window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, David was in prison, living with the consequences of his choices. Somewhere else, people were in situations like hers had been, trapped, scared, not knowing how to escape. But because of the work she'd built with Dante and Maria, some of those people would get out, would survive, would rebuild. That mattered more than anything. 3 years after David's sentencing, Emma was asked to give a keynote speech at a national medical conference about domestic violence identification in healthcare settings. She stood on a stage in front of 500 physicians and told her story. Not all of it. Some parts were still too private, too raw, but enough. I was a doctor who almost died because I didn't recognize the signs in my own life, she said. I was trained to spot abuse in patients, but I couldn't see it in my mirror. That's how insidious it is. How good the manipulation can be. She talked about the foundation, about the hundreds of people they'd helped escape, about the importance of asking questions and believing people when they said they were in danger. The most important thing I learned is this, Emma said, looking out at the audience. Survival is just the beginning. Recovery is where the real work happens. And it's worth it. Every hard day, every nightmare, every moment of wondering if you'll ever feel normal again, it's worth it. Because on the other side is a life you built for yourself. Not one someone else designed for you, not one you settled for, but one you actively chose. The applause was long and loud. Afterward, dozens of doctors approached her with questions, stories, requests for resources. Emma gave them the foundation's information and watched them walk away with tools they could use to help their own patients. She was making a difference, not just surviving, actually changing things. That night she had dinner with Dante at their usual restaurant. "I watched your keynote online," he said. "It was powerful." "Thank you. It felt important to tell the truth about it." "You've come a long way from the woman I met in that hospital break room." Dante's expression was warm. "I knew you were strong, but I didn't know you were this strong." Emma thought about that version of herself. Exhausted, invisible, about to go home to a man who was planning her murder. "I wasn't this strong then. I had to become it." That's what strength is, not something you're born with, something you build when you have to. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Dante said something that surprised her. "I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations at the foundation, transitioning to an advisory role." Emma looked up sharply. "Why?" "Because I've been doing this work for 12 years. I've saved a lot of people. But I'm tired, Emma. And the foundation doesn't need me anymore. It needs fresh energy, new perspective." He met her eyes. "It needs you to lead it." "Me?" "You. You're already doing most of the strategic work. You understand the mission better than anyone, and people trust you because you've lived through what they're living through." Dante smiled. "I'm not leaving. I'll still be around for advice, for support, but it's time for me to step back and let someone else drive." Emma felt the weight of that responsibility and the rightness of it at the same time. "That's a lot of pressure." "You've been handling pressure for 3 years. This is just making it official." Dante raised his glass. "To new beginnings." Emma clinked her glass against his. "To new beginnings." 6 months later, Emma officially became executive director of the Sophia Foundation. She hired more staff, expanded to 15 cities, established partnerships with law enforcement agencies nationwide. The work was exhausting and fulfilling and everything she never knew she needed. She dated occasionally. Nothing serious, nothing that demanded more than she was willing to give. Maybe someday she'd be ready for something real. But for now, she was content building a life that was full and purposeful and entirely her own. 4 years after David's sentencing, Emma got another letter from the prison. She almost didn't open it, but something made her. "Emma, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to respond. But I heard about the foundation, about the work you're doing, and I wanted you to know that I'm glad something good came from something so terrible. I'll be eligible for parole in 14 years. I won't ask you to speak on my behalf. I won't contact you again. This is goodbye. I hope you've built something beautiful." David E. Emma read the letter once. Then she put it through the shredder in her office and went back to work. She'd built something beautiful. Not for him. Not because of him. Despite him. And that was enough. On the 5th anniversary of the day Dante had walked into that hospital break room and told her the truth that saved her life, Emma stood in the foundation's main office surrounded by her staff. They'd helped over 2,000 people escape dangerous situations, saved countless lives, made a real, measurable difference. Maria raised a glass. To 5 years of the Sophia Foundation. And to Emma, who took the worst thing that ever happened to her and turned it into the best thing that could happen to thousands of other people. Everyone cheered. Emma looked around at the faces of people who dedicated their lives to this work, who believed in the mission, who showed up every day to help strangers survive and rebuild and become whole again. This was her family now, not bound by blood or marriage, but by shared purpose and mutual respect. Dante approached her as the celebration wound down. "How do you feel?" "Grateful, tired, proud." Emma smiled. "Alive." "Good answer." He handed her an envelope. "One more thing." Inside was a check, a large check, funding for another year of expansion. "Where did this come from?" "Anonymous donor who believes in what we're doing. Use it however you see fit." Emma looked at the check and felt tears building. Not sad tears, happy ones, overwhelmed ones. The kind that came when you realized your life had become something worth crying happy tears over. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for saving my life, for believing in me, for helping me become someone I actually like being. You did that yourself. I just provided the initial push." Dante smiled. "What are you going to do with the rest of your life, Emma Morrison?" Emma thought about it. About the woman she'd been 5 years ago, invisible, exhausted, marked for death. About the woman she'd become, strong, purposeful, alive in every sense of the word. "I'm going to keep helping people, keep building this foundation, keep turning pain into purpose." She looked at Dante. And I'm going to stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop making myself small. Stop being anything less than exactly who I am. That's a good plan. Emma left the office that night and walked through the city she'd almost died in. The city where she'd been reborn. The streets looked different now, brighter, full of possibility instead of danger. She thought about David in his prison cell, counting down the years until parole. She thought about the scared woman she'd been, working herself to exhaustion in a marriage that was slowly killing her. She thought about all the people the foundation would help tomorrow, next month, next year. And she thought about herself. Emma Morrison, survivor, doctor, leader, woman who'd stared death in the face and chosen to live instead. She'd chosen right. The city lights reflected off windows and wet pavement. Emma pulled her coat tighter and smiled at nothing and no one in particular. She was free. She was strong. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. And the rest of her life stretched out ahead of her like a promise she fully intended to keep.